At my father's wedding he called me a disgrace for not toasting his new wife. I stood up, raised my glass, and said, "Here's to the woman who was sleeping with my dad while Mom was dying his best." Man dropped his champagne, his bride screamed. What happened next made the priest walk out. The ballroom at the Fairmont Hotel in downtown Chicago was buzzing with laughter, clinking glasses, and the hum of an overpriced live band playing a soft romantic melody. The entire scene was polished white floral centerpieces, golden candle holders, neatly folded linen napkins placed beside plates that had probably cost more than my rent. Everything about this wedding screamed money. It was extravagant, ridiculous, and frankly a slap in the face. I sat at a round table near the front, my whiskey glass half empty, my plate mostly untouched. My sister Claire sat beside me, her fingers nervously picking at the fabric of her navy blue dress. "You okay?" she asked. Quietly I exhaled through my nose. Peachy. Her gaze darted toward our father, Richard Holloway, the man of the hour, who was standing near the dance floor, smiling like he hadn't burned our family to the ground. His hand was placed tightly around his new wife's waist. Veronica, the woman who had been in his life long before my mother had passed. My grip on my glass tightened. I wasn't supposed to be here. I had no intention of coming when the invitation arrived on thick, elegant cardstock embossed in gold. I had thrown it directly in the trash. I didn't even hesitate then. Claire called me. "Alex, please," she had begged over the phone, her voice breaking. "I know you hate him. I do too, but I can't do this alone." I sighed, pinching the bridge in my nose. "You really want to sit through Dad marrying her?" "No," she admitted, "but if I have to suffer through it, I want you there with me." And just like that, I was on a plane back to Chicago, sitting in a stiff chair at a wedding that should have never happened, watching my father play happily ever after with the woman who had helped destroy my family. The worst part, the guests were eating it up to them. Richard was a respected man, a high-profile lawyer, a devoted father, a grieving widower who had found love again. Bullcrap. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know that while my mother, Martyr Holloway, was dying of ovarian cancer, barely strong enough to lift her head off a pillow, my father was sneaking around with Veronica behind her back. And now here we were. "Are you drinking that or just staring at it?" Claire muttered beside me. I blinked and realized my fingers were still curled around my whiskey glass. I took a slow sip, letting the burn settle in my throat. "Both," I replied dryly. She huffed out a quiet laugh, but her expression remained tense. "I don't know how you're keeping it together right now." "Who says I am?" I could feel my father's gaze drifting toward me throughout the night. I knew he didn't want me here. I wasn't part of the perfect picture he was trying to paint. But Claire had insisted, and he had begrudgingly extended an invitation, probably hoping I'd decline. He should have been so lucky then. Just as I was considering ordering another drink, my father did something that sealed his fate. He clicked his glass. A hush fell over the ballroom. Richard cleared his throat, his face lighting up with that charming practice smile he always used in courtrooms and country clubs. "First off, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight," he began. "This is a special day, not just for me, but for Veronica. We are so blessed to have such incredible family and friends to celebrate this new chapter in our lives." Polite applause followed. I clenched my jaw. New chapter. Like the last one, my mother's life was a book he couldn't wait to slam shut. Of course, he continued, "I want to take a moment to acknowledge my children, Claire and Alex." My stomach twisted. They've been through a lot this past year, and I know how difficult transitions can be, but Claire, sweetheart, you've been such a strong, beautiful soul through it all. I couldn't be prouder of the woman you've become. Claire forced a tight-lipped smile. Then my father turned to me. "And Alex," he said. I stared back at him, saying nothing. "I know we've had our differences," he continued, his voice smooth, rehearsed, "but family is family, and in the spirit of unity, I'd love for you to say a few words." My body went rigid. The room fell silent. I glanced at Claire, who looked just as stunned as I felt. My father smiled at me expectantly. "Come on, son. Don't be a disgrace." The words at me like a punch to the gut, and just like that I snapped. I stood up slowly, grabbing my glass. The room watched me, waiting. I took a deep breath, and then, "Here's to the woman who was sleeping With my dad while my mom was dying. The effect was instant. A sharp gasp rippled through the crowd. Someone's fork clattered against their plate. My father's best man Peter fumbled his champagne glass, sending it crashing onto the floor. Veronica's face drained of all color, her perfect smile vanishing, and then the chaos began. What the Alex? Veronica shrieked, her voice cutting through the silence like a knife. A murmur spread across the room. Did he just say, "Oh my God"? Richard's expression darkened. "Sit down." I didn't move. No. His eyes flashed with rage. "You have no idea what you're talking about, really." I laughed bitterly, because I remember Mom crying herself to sleep when you'd work late. I remember the whispers, the hotel receipts, the perfume on your shirts that weren't hers. I remember everything. Veronica's hands balled into fists. "You're lying." And my eyes shot back, because last time I checked, mistresses don't typically get wedding rings. Claire let out a strangled sob beside me. "Enough." My father barked, his voice booming. "You will not ruin this night." "Ruin it?" I scoffed. "Dad, you ruined it. You ruined us, and you don't even care." The tension in the room was suffocating, and then the priest stood up, removed his glasses, and sighed. "You know what?" he muttered. "I'm done." And with that, the priest walked out of the wedding. The whispers turned into full-blown conversations. Richard turned to me, seething. "Get out." I set my glass down carefully on the table gladly, and then, without looking back, I walked out of the reception, leaving my father's perfect wedding in ruins. I walked out of the ballroom, my pulse pounding in my ears. The grand hallway outside the reception was dimly lit, lined with expensive floral arrangements and decorative mirrors reflecting the face of a man who had finally spoken his truth. I needed air. My hands were shaking as I shoved open the heavy doors leading to the outdoor terrace. The cool Chicago night hit me like a slap, crisp and fresh against my heated skin. I took a deep breath, leaning against the stone railing, my fingers gripping the edge until my knuckles turned white. Everything was quiet out here, a stark contrast to the chaos I had left behind. My father had called me a disgrace, and in response I had burned his entire wedding to the ground. I exhaled, my breath visible in the cold night air. Was I supposed to feel guilty, relieved, angry? I settled somewhere in between. "Alex." I turned at the sound of my sister's voice. Claire had followed me, her heels clicking against the stone as she stepped onto the terrace. Her face was flushed, eyes still glassy from tears. "You okay?" I asked. My voice, she let out a shaky laugh. "Am I okay?" She ran a hand through her dark curls, exhaling sharply. "I should be asking you that." I looked away, rubbing a hand over my face. "I don't know, Claire. I couldn't let him get away with it." "You didn't," she said softly. "Believe me, you didn't." I glanced at her. Was I out of line? She snorted. "Out of line, Alex. You just nuked Dad's wedding." "I think out of line is a bit of an understatement." I huffed, out of breath. "Yes." She leaned against the railing beside me, crossing her arms over her chest. I probably wouldn't have done it that way," she admitted, tilting her head. "But I don't blame you, not even a little." Silence settled between us, the city lights twinkling in the distance. "Mom would have wanted this, wouldn't she?" Claire murmured after a moment. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I think she would have." She nodded, blinking rapidly. I reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "Are they still in there?" I asked. She let out another shaky breath. "Oh yeah, the guests are still," whispering. "Dad trying to do damage control, but it's bad." She gave me a sidelong glance. Veronica looked like she was going to combust, and the priest actually left like straight up, walking out. A dry chuckle escaped me. "Good." Claire smirked honestly. "Yeah." The door behind us suddenly creaked open. Both of us turned, and there he was, Richard Holloway, our father. His face was tight with barely restrained fury, his jaw clenched so hard I thought his teeth might shatter. His tuxedo jacket was unbuttoned now, as if he had yanked it open in frustration. His hand were balled, led into fists at his sides. "Claire," he said, his voice low, controlled. "Go inside." She stiffened. "No." His eyes flicked to me now. I stepped forward, placing myself between them. She stays. His nostrils flared, but he kept his voice. "Even I don't want to do this here." I scoffed. "Oh, now you care about appearances." I gestured toward the ballroom. "Pretty sure that ship sailed when you call me a disgrace in front of 200 people." His jaw tightened. "You humate Me, I let out a humorless laugh. You made yourself. Dad, I shook my head. You could have just let me sit there in silence, but no, you had to drag me into it. You had to make me play along with your little fairy tale. He took a step closer, his voice dropping. You had no right to do what you did. I met his gaze, unflinching, and you had no right to do what you did. His eyes darkened. You don't understand, don't I? Cut him off sharply. Don't you dare try to justify it. I was there, Dad. I saw what it did to her. I saw Mom waste away in that hospital bed while you were off her. Claire sucked in a sharp breath beside me, but she didn't interrupt. Richard exhaled slowly, as if trying to regain control. You don't know what my marriage with your mother was like. My blood turned ice cold. Excuse me. His expression hardened. It wasn't perfect, Alex. She stopped himself, shaking his head. There were problems long before Veronica. I stared at him in disbelief. You don't get to do that. You don't get to rewrite history just to make yourself feel better. My voice rose, my anger bubbling over. She loved you. She trusted you, and you repaid her by cheating on her while she was dying. His mouth tightened. I was unhappy. I actually laughed. You were unhappy. I took a step closer. Do you have any idea how much pain Mom was in, how she clung to the hope that maybe you still loved her, and you were what? Bored. Richard's face darkened. Watch it. No, I snapped. You watch yourself, because I am done letting you pretend you're some kind of victim here. You made a choices. Dad, you chose Veronica over Mom, over us. Silence. For the first time in my life, I saw something in my father's face that almost looked like shame, but it passed too quickly. Instead, he straightened, smoothing a hand down his tuxedo. When he spoke again, his voice was cold. If you walk away from me now, you walk away for good, he said. Is that what you want? I stared at him. This was the moment he thought he could scare me back into submission, but he didn't understand. I'd already lost my mother. Losing him didn't scare me at all. I squared my shoulders, meeting his gaze with unwavering certainty. If that's what it takes, I said, voice steady. Then yeah, that's exactly what I want. Claire let out a quiet gasp beside me, but she didn't try to stop me. Richard's expression didn't change. If anything, his jaw just tightened. His face set in an unreadable mask. Then don't come crawling back when you regret it, he said. I exhaled, shaking my head. I won't. And with that, I turned and walked away. Claire hesitated for only a second before following. We didn't look back, not once. The cold air bit in my skin as Claire and I stepped away from our father, the weight of everything pressing down on us. My legs felt heavy, my breath shallow, but I kept walking. My father didn't call after us. He didn't try to stop me. Good. I didn't expect him to. Richard Holloway wasn't the kind of man to chase after anything. He let go of Claire, and I reached the side entrance of the hotel, where a few staff members were taking a smoke break. They barely glanced at us as we walked past, still too absorbed in whatever drama was unfolding inside the ballroom. Claire sniffled beside me, hugging her arms around herself. You okay? I asked, my voice quieter now. She let out a dry laugh, shaking her head. Am I okay, Alex? I don't even know what the hell just happened in there. She stopped walking, turning to me. Do you realize what you just did? I ran a hand through my hair. Yeah, I do. She searched my face. And do you regret it? I hesitated, but only for a second. No, I said honestly, not even a little. Claire let out a shaky breath, nodding. Yes, she murmured me. Neither. We stood there in silence, the sounds of distant traffic filling the space between us. Then Claire laughed again, this time a real laugh, a breathless, almost disbelieving laugh. Jesus Christ, Alex! The priest walked out. I smirked despite myself. Yeah, that was something. She shook her head, still grinning, then her expression sobered. What do we do now? I exhaled, looking up at the dark Chicago sky. I don't know, I admitted, but I know I'm not going to they're playing the hotel entrance. The sounds of voices and music still drifting. The air should be just leave, she asked me. Gave her a look. She was station. Thought about it herself. Nodded very just as we were to head to the front of the hotel. Swung over the campus out as we did. It was Veronica who had noticed me. Stunning fitted gown with delicate lace. Detailing was looked at with all eyes, but she had practically run out of this. When you decided to screw a married man. Her eyes blazed, you arrogant little. Careful, I warned, wouldn't want to guessed. To hear the blushing bride throwing a tantrum, she actually stomped her foot. You think this is funny, you think lighting us in front of everyone was some kind of win for you. I crossed my arms. I think it was the truth, something neither of you seemed to be familiar with. Her nostrils flared, you selfish little crap. Claire sucked in a sharp breath beside me. Whoa, Veronica took a step closer. Your father gave you everything. He built a life for you, and this is how you repay him. I let out a slow, deliberate breath. You want to talk about repayment, Veronica? My mother spent 25 years loving a man who betrayed her while she was fighting for her life, and you. I gestured at her. You were part of it. You don't get to stand here in your stolen wedding dress and play the victim. Her mouth opened and closed, but nothing came out. Claire let out a quiet damn. Veronica recovered quickly. Your father doesn't deserve this. He's been through enough. I felt something snap inside me. He's been through enough. My voice came out sharper, angrier. Do you hear yourself? My mother died, and you think he was the one who suffered? Veronica's face twisted. Margaret, don't say her name. I cut her off sharply. She hesitated. I took a step forward, lowering my voice. You don't get to pretend you cared about her. You don't get to act like this wedding was some beautiful new beginning when we all know what it really is. She swallowed hard, her jaw tightening. You're just another chapter in a book of lies, I said, my voice deadly calm for the first time. That night she had nothing to say. Claire crossed her arms. Are we done here? Veronica's lips pressed into a thin line. Then, without another word, she spun on her heel and marched back toward the hotel. Wow, Claire muttered. That was dramatic. I let out a slow breath. Yeah, I'm exhausted. She glanced at me. Are you really okay? I hesitated. I don't know, I admitted, but I think I will be. She nodded slowly, then she smirked. So, since we're already dressed up and out in the city, you want to go get some overpriced cocktails somewhere fancy and pretend we belong there? A small smile tugged at my lips. That might be the best idea you've had all night. She looped her arm through mine. Then let's get the hell out of here. And with that we walked away from the Fairmont Hotel, leaving the wreckage of my father's wedding behind us. For the first time in a long time I felt free. Claire and I walked down the bustling Chicago street, the hum of city life wrapping around us. The cold air was bracing, but I welcomed it. Anything to clear my head. You really going to be okay? Claire asked, looping her arm through mine. I let out a slow breath. I think so. You? She shrugged. Honestly, I thought I'd feel guilty. I thought I'd be panicking about how we just set Dad's life on fire, but she trailed off, then grinned. I feel amazing. I huffed out a laugh. Good. We ended up at a cocktail bar in River North, an upscale lounge filled with people who looked like they belonged on magazine covers. We absolutely did not belong there, but Claire was determined, and I figured after what we just been through, we deserve something top shelf. We slid into a leather booth near the back, ordered 2 ridiculously expensive drinks, and let the night settle in around us. You know, he's going to come after us, right? Claire said after a while, stirring her martini. I nodded. Yeah, but I don't care. She smirked. So what's next? I took a slow sip of my whiskey. We finished what we started, and that's exactly what we did. By the next morning, my father's wedding had gone viral. Claire and I woke up to our phones blowing up. Texts, Ms. calls, social media alerts. The scandal had spread like wildfire. Apparently a lot of guests had recorded my toast. Someone posted it online, and then the internet did what the internet does best. The video was everywhere. Groom's son exposes affair. Wedding. Chicago lawyer's wedding turns into a public meltdown. Brutal wedding toast calls out father's infidelity, and we're here for it. Claire nearly choked on her coffee when she saw the headlines. Holy crap, Alex, we broke the internet. I scrolled through the comments on one of the videos. Justice for Margaret. Imagine being called out like this on your wedding day. Couldn't be me. Low-key, the priest walking out was the most iconic part. You love to see karma working in real time. I couldn't help but laugh. The world finally saw my father for who he really was. Think Dad's seen it yet? Claire mused, still scrolling as if on cue. My phone rang. Richard Holloway. I'll let it Ring Claire raised an eyebrow. You're not going to answer. I took a sip of coffee. Nope, cold, she grinned. I like it. I wasn't done yet though. Over the next few days, my father's perfect image started crumbling. His law firm, a firm that prided itself on integrity, was not happy about the scandal. Clients started pulling out, not wanting to be associated with him. Then more rumors started surfacing. People began digging. Turns out Veronica wasn't the only affair. There were others, multiple, some of them years before Mom got sick. Claire and I didn't have to do anything. The internet did the work for us. A week later, my father stepped down from his firm. A week after that, Veronica deleted all her social media. And then finally, the cherry on top, Veronica left him. She couldn't handle the humiliation, the backlash. She had signed up for wealth, status, a life of luxury. She hadn't signed up for being the woman from that viral wedding scandal. And so, just 2 months after their disastrous wedding, she packed her bags and walked out of his life. Poetic justice. One afternoon, Claire and I visited Mom's grave. It was peaceful there, quiet. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the rows of headstones. I placed a bouquet of fresh leaves beside her marker, brushing some fallen leaves away. Hey, Mom, I murmured, you won't believe what we did. Claire chuckled softly, kneeling beside me. You would have loved it. I let out a breath, staring at her name carved in stone for the first time in a long time. I felt like I could breathe, like we had finally given her the justice she never got when she was alive. I didn't regret a damn thing. Richard Holloway reached out once, a pathetic, half-hearted voicemail. Alex, I know things got out of hand, but you're still my son. We should talk. I deleted it without listening to the rest. Claire and I moved on, and my father, well, last I heard, he was living alone in a condo downtown, his reputation in ruins, his career in decline, and honestly that was more satisfying than any revenge I could have planned. For the first time in my life, I was free, and that was enough.